Men's long jump, world and American records by Bob Beamon, the oldest records in track and field. And this is a titanic battle between Larry Myrick's and Mike Powell. Myrick's first attempt about a half an hour ago. First round, you can see the distance, 27 feet, 3/4 of an inch. It was a wind-aided jump as we have some gusting winds down here. As I've said many times before, Myrick's fantastic sprint speed on the runway and one of the best technicians ever in the event. Myrick's 33 years old, 4 times a U.S. Olympian, bronze medalist in last year's Olympic Games. A little bit short on the board. He had a little bit more to give. Outstanding technique, outstanding extension into the pit. He has more in him. He's jumped over 28 feet already this outdoor season. And this is one of the collegians in the event, Llewellyn Stark, who had a personal record in the qualifying round yesterday. We are now live. He jumped 26.8 in the qualifying round yesterday. And again, these winds are gusting, so some of the marks may be legal and some may be wind-aided. Llewellyn Stark, another one of the collegiate athletes, performing extremely well at the NCAA level and coming in here to the outdoor national championships and trying to tie it up with the big guys. Myrick's and Powell have really been our focus all outdoor season on U.S. Olympic gold. They've been trading victories back and forth throughout the spring. But anything can happen in a national championship. As you can see here, Starks was 3rd at the NCAAs in the long jump for NCAA championship team LSU. They won both the men's and the women's titles at that championship in Provo, Utah, just 2 weeks ago. Field events take a lot of concentration. Many of the athletes use as close to the 1.5 minutes that they're allowed in the long jump, triple jump, and throws, and 2 minutes are allowed in the pole vault. And when you have gusting wind conditions, you have to be able to adjust your step and make certain adaptations in order to maximize the wind. Wind is very good in the long jump. Aside from record purposes, the athletes are able to run faster and get better marks. That was not an outstanding technical effort by Llewellyn Starks. He came up a little short on the landing, but he's a very, very fast athlete on the runway. Good arm swing. He's taken a little bit of a peek. He's cheating a peek at the board, and he was very close to the end. But he gets leaning way back in the middle of his jump. And see, he almost stands straight up in the pit. He lost a good foot, 1.5 feet off of what that jump could have been potentially. And the current standings after the first round in the long jump, Larry Myrick's leading with Mike Powell in 2nd and Vernon George in 3rd. Just tall. Now we're back to Mike Powell live in the long jump, the silver medalist from the Olympic Games in Seoul, South Korea. Got his personal best in the Olympic final. And of course that competition won by Carl Lewis. And Larry Myrick was the bronze medal. The Americans swept that event at the Olympic Games last summer. Powell also extremely fast on the runway. Great jumping skills. He was a long jumper, triple jumper, and a high jumper in his early collegiate days at UC Irvine. And again, Powell did not get great jump height on this particular jump. You could see he really cheated at the end and shortened that last little stride. He was going to be over the board. Did not get good height, leaning back, and also having to make adjustments in the middle of the landing. One of the great new athletes coming into this event is high school sensation Dion Bentley. Let's take a look at him.
Carl Lewis, the world's most consistent long jumper ever, was first discovered in high school. Why is the track and field world touting 17-year-old Dion Bentley as Carl's heir apparent?
His determination, his ability to take advice, his ability to want to learn. And these are all really forerunners of what has probably brought him to the point in time that he is now in his development as a person and as a track athlete. We're very concerned about how he starts out. The first 3 steps in the approach run is very critical. How you start out in something is going to dictate how you're going to end up, and is very true, especially in the approach run for the long jump. And so his first 3 steps have to be exactly the same. He goes into every jump very confident that he's going to be on the board, he's going to hit the board, and so now that takes away thought process. And when you're able to run very hard with no thought process in the run itself, then your concentration simply is going to be greater at the board.
Dion has had remarkable success for a young athlete, but he does recognize his shortcomings and is willing to work on them to guarantee a long career.
The takeoff is definitely my best part of the jump. I have an exceptionally high takeoff. I'm not that fast, and my form, it could take some working on, but that's what I feel is my best part, is the takeoff.
I feel that Dion has the ability to go to be in the Olympics. Yes, to be in the Olympics. And I feel with little good coaching, lots of prayers, and Dion should be able to become one of the gold medal winners. Yes.
Next year, Dion joins the collegiate ranks at the University of Florida.
But we have Larry Myrick here on the runway live. He's getting a lot of pressure here. He's got a couple of athletes just fractions of an inch behind him in the men's long jump at this time. This is Brian Brown, who has had some success at the NCAA level. Another athlete from Louisiana in the high jump who's done very, very well. We're switching back and forth between the high jump and long jump as they are, of course, happening simultaneously here at the national championships. This is Myrick's second round jump. He's our current leader. And that a much better effort technically than his first. He got a little to the side off the board, which seems to be his MO. He gets off the board and goes a little bit to the right. Again, good arm speed, but he drops the right arm a little bit looking for the board, and he gets much more of the board on this particular jump. And you can see he does not lean back nearly as much as Mike Powell and Llewellyn Starks did in their first round jumps, but he gets way off to the side of the pit. In fact, you can get a real good sting on your Achilles tendon or on your heel if you hit the side of that pit. And Larry Myrick stretches out his lead to 27 feet, 9 1/4, and it's just slightly over the allowable of 2 meters per second. And now we're going to go to Mike Powell in the long jump. And again, this is a battle that's getting to be a classic. Mike Powell and Larry Myrick have been jumping against each other almost every single week on U.S. Olympic gold. And of course, we love seeing our best athletes competing against each other as often as they possibly can. Third round, Mike Powell in deep concentration. He knows now that Larry Myrick has jumped 27 9 1/4. And by the way, that wind-dated mark was not correct. They had left the previous wind-dated mark up on the board. Myrick's 27 9 1/4 was a legal mark. So Myrick's getting into the groove. As I told you, that technique on his second jump much better. Powell realizes that he has got to improve his technique and catch a real good wind here, hit the board solid, and stretch out close to the 28-foot level. And the wind is really gusting right now, and that's why Mike Powell went. He's taking a gamble that he can hit the board and take advantage of that extra speed, and that was a much better technical jump for Powell than on that first jump.
It looked like a foul though, Dwight, and I wonder if the wind pushed him onto the board.
It's so very difficult. It's so difficult to judge what's going to happen. You can see he stepped short, and he still, as you are correct, Greg, he did foul on that particular jump, so that mark will not count. Here's Vernon George. He's in third place currently with 27 feet 3/4 of an inch. This jump happening just a few minutes ago. The long jump is starting. Well, this is live, pardon me. They're a little bit in shadows at part of their runway, which makes it also adjusting to the wind and adjusting to the conditions on the track a little bit more difficult. He's in second with a second better effort. He has the same distance as Mike Powell. He both jumped 27 feet 3/4 of an inch, which Vernon George has a better second effort. And that's also a better jump technically than his first attempt, but again, he is not getting the kind of stretch, the kind of extension into the pit, and that one, because of the wind, is a foul. You can see the red flag in the background. Let's see if we can pick this up on the replay. Just stepping over by about 2 or 3 inches. And very good off the board on this, but you can see him leaning back. That is not something that you want to do in the long jump. He's fighting that natural tendency to rotate forward. And if you watch Larry Myrick and Carl Lewis jump, they do not do that. They don't fight that centripetal force that makes you want to go forward. They go with it, and that's why they are much more consistent long 27-foot and 28-foot jumpers. Yesterday, here we have Larry Myrick, the current leader, 27 9 1/4. Again, the W has been eliminated. That is a legal mark. And he is really dominating the competition at this time, but he knows he's jumping against a number of athletes who have the capability, with this wind especially, of catching a jump over 28 feet, not only because they have tremendous skill, but if they hit the wind just exactly right and get just a couple more fractions of a meter per second runway speed, they could carry a jump in excess of his particular leading jump.
You know, Larry, at 33 years old, Dwight, he had his best jump ever, over 28 feet earlier in the season. Has he talked about setting that record, that world record? Everyone talks about Carl breaking Bob Beeman's record. Larry looks so good.
Yeah, again, you can see the current standings in the long jump. Larry Myrick enjoying a nice 9-inch lead in the event, but that type of lead can disappear very quickly in these particular conditions. Concentrating at the end of the runway, using, of course, all of the runway. In fact, you can see runway extended into the pit that they use when the wind is blowing in the other direction. He is such a great veteran. He started competing in the Olympic team in 1976, made the final, and broke his foot warming up for the final in 1976. We, of course, none of our athletes were able to go to the 1980 Olympic Games in Moscow. 1984, one of the most disappointing competition of his life. Every meet that year over 27 feet. All he had to do is produce a 27-foot jump in the Olympic final. He jumped 26.10 and got fourth. Fourth place being the loneliest place possible at the Olympic Games, and even the lonelier place at the Olympic trials. I was also fourth in the 84 Olympic Games, and let me tell you, I would have loved to have been third for the third time. He came back and rebounded nicely, winning a bronze medal in the Olympic Games in 1988, and at 33 years old, still very consistent, and I think still, Craig Mansbach, capable of setting that world record in the right conditions. Oh, that's an excellent jump. He really got it together technically on that one. His run-up was very, very smooth. He didn't sneak a peek at the board. He got most of the board on that run and really stretched it out nicely into the pit. Just right on the board. Everything he could possibly get out of it. And he does not lean back in the middle of the phase. And nicely completed jump. This wind is legal. We're waiting for the result. That's right, Ron. Larry Myrick's his second best legal jump of his life, 28 feet, 6.5 inches. And we could see it right off the board. He got everything there was to get on that board and had a very nice, clean flight, nice extension into the pit. In fact, very close to the end of this pit. And that's a world best by 6 inches. Larry Myrick's, of course, having the current world leader as well as the previous world leader. And I'm going to tell you, that puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the athletes in this particular event. I don't care how good the wind blows. It's going to take Mike Powell. He's going to have to do everything he can to get into that particular stratosphere.
Not many times that he breaks a Carl Lewis record, but he just broke Carl Lewis's stadium record.
Again, Myrick's very nice. You could just see how much better a jump that was. He landed it so nicely. He knew it was good. He knew it was solid. Myrick's doesn't really usually give that much emotion, but he knew that that was out there.
Well, we also had discus competition held earlier today, and our cameras were there for that. As we continue our complete coverage of the TAC Nationals, the USA Mobile Track and Field Championships, the current standings for the long jump, Myrick's, Vernon George, and Mike Powell running 1, 2, and 3.